Rain lashed against the manor windows. Thunder rattled the ancient panes, a monstrous echo within the cavernous halls of Blackwood. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a lone figure struggling up the muddy path. He was tall, shrouded in a long, dark coat, his face obscured by the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat. Thomas Blackwood had returned to the home he swore he'd never set foot in again. He'd been summoned by the solicitor, the letter ominously vague. His inheritance awaited, a legacy he both craved and dreaded. The iron gates groaned open, a rusted, mournful cry. He pushed open the heavy oak doors, their hinges screaming in protest. He knew with chilling certainty that he was not alone. The solicitor, Mr. Graves, was a gaunt man with eyes that flickered like dying embers. He spoke of the manor's history, his voice a dry rasp echoing in the oppressive silence. Thomas barely listened, his gaze drawn to the shadows that danced at the edge of his vision. There was a presence here, cold and watchful. He spent the next few days exploring, each room shrouded in dust and memories he couldn't quite grasp. He found himself drawn to the attic, a place forbidden in his youth. As he pushed open the creaking door, a cold gust of wind slammed it shut. He tried again, his blood turning to ice as he heard a soft, mournful sigh from the other side. He slept little, haunted by nightmares he couldn't quite remember upon waking. He wasn't just imagining it. Something was toying with him. One night, as a storm raged outside, he heard it, a whisper, soft as a breath, his name spoken in the darkness. He sat bolt upright in bed, his heart pounding in his chest. Silence. He tried to convince himself it was the wind, the old house groaning under the tempest's fury. But deep down he knew the truth. The whispers continued, growing bolder, taunting him, drawing him deeper into the heart of the manor. He began to see fleeting glimpses, shadows flitting past doorways, a figure shrouded in darkness at the end of the hall. He was trapped, his sanity slowly unraveling with each passing moment. He couldn't take it anymore. He had to know who or what was tormenting him. Armed with nothing but a flickering oil lamp, he crept through the darkened halls, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The whispers led him on, a terrifying trail of breadcrumbs through the labyrinthine corridors. He found himself standing before a full-length mirror in a room he'd never seen before. The whispers stopped. He was alone, or so he thought. As he raised his lamp, its light flickered across the mirror's surface, revealing a figure standing directly behind him. The figure was identical to him in every way except for its eyes. They were bottomless pits of darkness, reflecting an ancient evil that sent shivers crawling down his spine. He spun around, but there was nothing there. He was alone, yet he'd never felt so utterly watched. He awoke in a cold sweat. The memory of the ghostly figure seared into his mind. He knew what he had to do. He raced to the attic, the room where it had all began. He ripped open dusty trunks, desperate for answers, for some explanation to the madness that had gripped him. And then he found it. A diary, bound in faded leather, its pages filled with a spidery script. He recognized the handwriting instantly, his father's. As he read, his blood ran cold. His father had been plagued by the same visions, the same whispers, driven to the brink of madness by the entity that haunted Blackwood Manor. But there was more. The entity wasn't some malevolent spirit. It was a reflection, a dark echo of the Blackwood bloodline. It fed off their fear, their guilt, growing stronger with each generation. And it had chosen him as its next vessel. The final entry in the diary, scrawled in a shaky hand, chilled him to the bone. The reflection, "It's me, I can feel it taking over, I have to stop it." He stumbled back from the trunk, his mind reeling. He understood now. The entity wasn't haunting him, it was a part of him, a twisted reflection of his own soul. He walked back to the full-length mirror, the one from his nightmare. He stared into his own reflection, searching for any sign of the darkness that lurked beneath. His heart hammered in his chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the old house. He raised a trembling hand, pressing it against the cold glass. And then his reflection smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was cold, cruel, filled with an ancient malice that made his blood run cold. His reflection reached out, its hand passing through the mirror's surface to grasp his own. He was Blackwood, and the darkness